Hello, everyone. Welcome down to Aptors Alley, International Aptors Alley. We're going from the suburbs of Philadelphia all the way to Montreal today. Two of my dearest friends, one of them was a correspondent of mine back in the days when I was with the wrestling magazines, that is Bertrand Herbert. Did I pronounce that right?
Exactly, Mr. Apter.
We used to call you in Long Island Bert Herbert.
Yeah, something like that.
Yes, and Pat Laparde. Did I get
Leprad.
I say Laparde. That's
I'm not Italian, but that'll do it.
That's all right. You know, I still get Apner from a lot of people.
I remember there was a lot of those back in the days.
Well, that's because Dusty Rhodes, who we lost several years ago, as of the date we're taping this, the Megadream used to get on and say, "My buddy Willie Apner." And people, I used to go to the matches and people used to call me Willie Apner. Anyway, these two gentlemen have gotten together again and they've made a giant book. And I don't like to read thick books. I don't like giant books, but this book could be one of the best books I have ever read. Is this the book we're plugging?
No, but we can still plug this one. That's the first one about Montreal.
Pat's looking like he's got the wrong book.
It's you, so I know you don't have the wrong book. It's Bill Apter being Bill Apter. I'm totally fine with this.
I did that as we call shtick, but you two, I loved this book, and you two put this book together, and it was absolutely fabulous, and people can still buy it. But this book that I'm talking about, we first have to get the star of our video program.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this man named Andre the Giant.
Yeah, the one and only.
Yeah, and he's back here. And he's over there with me back in Houston, Texas, many, many years ago. And the book, of course, is a giant book. And as much as I don't like reading thick books, I love this book. I've been reading it now, and I really, really love it. And a lot of the pictures, by the way, that were sent to you two by Pro Wrestling Illustrated are photographs that I actually shot. And it brought me back such great memories of the days when I knew Andre the Giant, and both personally and professionally. So after all these years of this guy being the legend that he is, how did the two of you get together on this project, and why now?
I mean, the HBO documentary is probably the reason why Andre became, I don't want to say relevant again because he was never not relevant, but it brought Andre back to a mainstream level where a lot of people who didn't know him because either they weren't fans at the time or even weren't born at the time, they could, learn more about Andre. And it's a project that we had in mind, ever since we did our second book, which is the Mad Dog Vachon book. Yes. But, we wanted to find the right timing, and we thought that after the documentary, there was more to say because there's so much you can actually put in a 90-minute documentary. So we thought that it was the right timing, and we pitched it to ECW Press, and they gave us the green light right away. So, I mean, there was much more to say because there was never a real project that was really talking about all the aspects of Andre's life and career. There was always something missing out. Either it was his time in Montreal, or it was the person, Andre Roussimoff, who was always in the shadow of Andre the Giant. So we wanted to do something, and that's why it's such a giant book, because we wanted left nothing left behind, and talk about Andre in Japan, Andre in England, Andre in Africa, Andre in Montreal, Andre everywhere, and who was Andre?
Very thorough. Bert, what surprises came up for you in the life of Andre, both either personally or as a ring performer, something you didn't know before and you were like, I can't believe this. I didn't know that about Andre.
I mean, his whole story of his tour of England early on in his career. I mean, kind of heard that he did went to the UK for tours, but that he was used in the way he was used, you know, putting over Kendo Nagasaki over there, and you know, that he was still learning English even there, and his friendship with Tony St. Clair. I mean, it all came into light for me. It was like, okay, that's a missing year as far as Andre's career, because you knew about France a little bit, you know about Japan, but the UK year, I mean, nobody knew anything about it. And our friend Bradley Craig over there, the UK was very helpful in getting us all the information we could get on that time period. So that to me is amazing, because we have all the impression that we all know Andre and we know everything about Andre, right? But you know, we discovered so much, and that we're so happy to be able to share that with everyone
That's great.
that have that fond memories of Andre.
Show everybody your shirt, by the way. Yeah, a giant shirt. Pat, were there any stumbling blocks on the way of writing? Were there any some people who just you couldn't get to, or people who just didn't want to talk about? Were there any stumbling blocks on writing this book?
I mean, the only one who actually didn't want to talk about was, and you know, I don't want to call her out because, you know, I respect her decision, but it was his daughter, Robin.
Of course.
She was the only one, because she usually accepts projects that are verified by the estate, and we didn't go through the estate for anything but for some pictures. So I mean, you know, I'm friends with her on Facebook.
She's terrific. I've interviewed her.
Oh yeah, I mean she's great, and you know, I just wanted her to, I mean, feel comfortable, and I asked her if she wanted to, you know, I explained to her what me and Bertrand were doing, and you know, it was a respectful book. We wanted to cover everything, have real stories, and I think she had some doubts about that, because probably I'm not the only one who told her stuff like that. So she told me she would think about it, and just never got back to me, which was fine. You know, I mean, I didn't, you know, put pressure on her, try to pursue it more. So, but aside from her, I mean, everybody was so happy to talk about Andre, and especially someone like Stan Henson. You know, Stan Henson is the foreword of the book, and you know how Stan Henson is. You know, I mean, he usually, you know, he's really business, right? And when I called him and asked him to do this, and he was like, "Oh wow, this is such a great honor to give my respect to Andre. You helped me so much throughout the years, and everything. I wouldn't be the restaurant I am today without him. He helped me a lot in Japan and all that." And I mean, he sent me forward and was so happy to do it.
That's great.
Even a few weeks ago, he sent me a text message telling me that he was done with the book and he loved it and he learned quite a few things. So I mean, we got that kind of answer from everyone in the business.
That's great. Now, what about both of you, Bert, starting with you? When your Andre the Giant match, is there a favorite match that you saw of Andre that screams out to you and going, boy, that was the best match I've ever seen Andre in?
When I was a kid, I mean, I had the chance in Montreal to see him at the tail end of when he was still so great in the ring. So I remember seeing him working with Stan Henson at the Forum, for example. And it was 15-minute draw because it was curfew or something like that. And still it was amazing because they made such a good work on television of making us want to see that battle. Sure. And, you know, I was there also for an Abdullah the Butcher against Andre the Giant, or maybe two of the most incredible character in the history of the business. So, I mean, to me, I mean, I'm sure if I would see those matches again with the eyes I have today, I may not have the same memory. But for the kid I was at the time, Giant came to town. It was the sheriff was in town. He was going to make the law, and everybody wanted to go and see the Giant. So that memory was is still very strong with me, and I'm so happy we can, you know, do him justice on all facets of his life.
Everybody wanted to have their picture taken with him.
Of course.
So, Pat, what about you? Your Andre match?
It has to be WrestleMania 3 against Hogan. I mean, I
Oh,
must have rented that VHS at least 10 times when I was a kid, both in French and English, because there was a French version of it also with Edouard Carpazzi and Frenchy Martin on commentary team. And I mean, you know, that was the match it's probably the match that made me fall in love with WWF at the time, because you know we're just getting out of international wrestling here locally, and you know I was 10 years old, you know, so to me that match was as you know as epic as it was for 10 years old.
yeah.
So I mean I'll remember that match for the rest of my life.
See, it's funny because the match that resonates with me is one I never saw. Tony Lanza, the brilliant photographer who used to photograph all the matches in Montreal for the wrestling magazines, had photographed him against many matches against Don Leo Jonathan.
Yeah.
And just from those photos, you got the whole flavor. And for Andre to drop kick at that point in his life, it just, the photos absolutely amaze me. But in person, so many matches I saw of Andre against Harley Race, and where Andre let Harley Race body slam him there was just absolutely amazing. His matches against Harley were interesting because he showed that he was more than just the Andre the Giant, the attraction, you know, that could go in the ring. He actually wrestled with Harley Race. So, yeah.
It's a very good match of Andre and Harley Race on YouTube from 1978, 1979, I think.
Was it in Charlotte?
No, it was, I want to say Houston. I think it was in Houston.
Okay.
And I mean, it was, I mean, I've watched it, you know, as we were writing the book, and I was like, wow, this is
It's a
such,
wrestling match.
oh, this is such a great match, a style, probably one of the last one in North America that Andre was able to perform like he did. But he was, I mean, when you take the time, it must have done like 25 minutes. And you know, I didn't see Andre like this, you know, when I was growing up, you know, because
Yeah.
Andre I've watched, it was so different.
He
So.
made, Andre was several different incarnations of Andre the Giant, actually.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And people don't really realize that he was trained in the classical style in France.
Yes.
He was trained not like a giant, he was trained like just any of the other wrestlers. So he had to know the technique, the hold, the counter hold, and the technical mat wrestling. So he knew all of that, and he was able to do it when given the chance or when he wanted to have fun, I guess. So that's amazing
I'm going to ask you a
realize.
Question. I'm going to ask you a loaded question now.
Okay,
right?
Yep.
Shoot.
The man that took Andre and promoted him and made Andre the biggest giant in the whole world was Vince McMahon Sr. If Vince McMahon Sr. picked up this book today, what do you think he'd say?
It is a loaded question.
I think he'd be very surprised about Andre's origin in France and from where he came from and his family origins and all that, because quickly enough the origin of Andre and his family, I mean, were lost into the giant from the French Hulk and all of that, and it's much more complex than it actually was ever reported before. I think that part I found it interesting, but after that, I think he'd find that it's a good portrait or a good picture of his time with Andre. We're taking him and putting him on the road and sending him from territory to territory, making him slowly but surely the biggest attraction maybe the sports has ever seen, actually.
Okay. What about you, Pat? What do you think?
I'd say to have talked to, like I said, Stan Henson, Gino Brito, there's a few other old-timers who've read it already and told us that they have learned things about Andre, because Andre was a man of a few words, right? So he wasn't really talking about his family back home. He was talking about his personal stuff. Didn't really mention the word acromegaly to a bunch of his peers. So I do think that Vince Sr. would actually learn a lot of stuff about Andre, maybe more personally than on the business side. But I think that he would like it, and he would love to learn more about who was Andrei Roussimoff, because I'm not sure that he really asked those questions to Andre back in the days, or they really had these kind of talks.
Okay, all right. The last question here. The Princess Bride, which was such a highlight of Andre's career. A lot of people didn't even know Andre the Giant was a wrestler until they saw that movie. Do you think that Andre could have, had he pursued it, gone on to become a bigger, to use the word, a bigger star? Or do you think he just, he's a special attraction like he was in wrestling, and he would have stayed in the same type of parts?
I think he showed a lot of acting chops in that movie. I mean, the right script and the right opportunity didn't materialize afterwards. Physically, he started to be very limited as well. He did some movies, a movie that actually came out after his passing, Trading Mom, and he looks 20 years older in that movie, and he can barely walk.
Yeah.
So that became an issue. If he would have been in shape and easy to work and physically fit, I mean, I think there was tons of options. Let's see, the Big Show now having his own comedy show on Netflix. Why not Andre have his sitcom on television? Yeah. So there was option, but physically the acromegaly became such a burden on him that it limited his option towards the end of his life, and that's very sad, actually. But it is a fantastic movie, because just recently my supervisor at work told me that.
Have either of you met Andre?
Yeah, not personally. I saw him wrestle live, but we never met him back in the days.
What about you, Pat?
No, never. I saw him live at the Montreal Forum, but never met him. But I wanna add up something on what Bertrand said. I think that if Princess Bride would have come 10 years earlier in Andre's career, he would have gotten so many more opportunities in Hollywood, and maybe he would have not keep the wrestling thing, because I think Hollywood would have picked him up. And Andre on the Princess Bride set quickly realized that it was pretty much like a wrestling locker room, and he found peace in there. And I think that Hollywood would have made a great transition to maybe a better life, or a life where he would have not had to take so many bumps. Or to work as a wrestler as much,
You know what we would have seen had that happened? Do you know what we would have seen?
WrestleMania 3. Oh.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
And just to tell you something, when you ask about Vince Sr., as much as I would have liked to interview Andre for the book, I think Vince Sr. is just behind Andre on that list of people I would have liked to interview. So as much as I think that Vince Sr. would learn a thing or two in the book, I would have loved to sit down and ask him all those questions, to the man himself.
Did you two approach Vince Jr., Vince, on this?
No, because it wasn't WWE approved, but I got knowledge of what Vince had said through the documentary, through my position in the documentary. So along as they were working on a documentary, I was told about pretty much what Vince was saying, and we quote him from the documentary as well. So we had a pretty good idea of what Vince would have told us in an interview, but we didn't really interview him. Yeah.
Okay, and just because he had a long history with Andre as well, of course. Yes. So this is the book. Hey, Bert, you have 1 or 2 copies of this book there, don't you?
Yeah, of course. We have many copies everywhere. So it's available everywhere.
This is the 8th wonder of books. The 8th wonder of books, because it is that well written and that well illustrated with amazing photos. And if you think you know who Andre the Giant was, I thought I knew, not until I started reading this, and I still have half the book to go. So I want to thank both of you for being here down at Actors Alley. And I rarely recommend books because so many of the books penned by wrestlers knock everything. This is a thorough picture of this guy named Andre the Giant. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Bill.
Thank you, Mr. Apter.
Coming from you, it means a lot.
Well, thank you. And you also can catch in that book, you can catch several stories of my involvement with the magazines with Andre the Giant. And one of them was extremely controversial, but I don't want to, and it's also, this is the other book I always recommend. Wait a minute, I'm going to ask both of you this at the same time and you can answer in tandem. Is wrestling fixed?
Was it broken?
That's it. We'll see you at the matches. Andre the Giant, the book, the eighth wonder of the world, the eighth wonder of books. You got to get it. This is Bill Apter. We'll see you eventually at the matches.